William Shakespeare's original text, King Lear is a man who wants it have it both ways. He is an aging monarch ready to retire, but he fully expects to keep the royal titles, the entourage, and his absolute power. Lear decides to split his kingdom into 3 sections, awarding the largest portions to the daughter who flatters him most. Goneril and Regan offer extravagant, empty praise, but Cordelia, his favorite, refuses. She tells him she loves him of unwist affection, without the sycophantic performance. Lear's massive ego cannot handle the perceived slight. Enraged and publicly humiliated, he completely disowns Cordelia, strips away her dowry, and splits her designated share between her 2 older sisters. The Earl of Kent, Lear's most trusted advisor, tries to intervene. He warns the king that Cordelia's honesty is worth more than her sister's flattery. In response, Lear banishes Kent on the spot under pain of death. By demanding ego validation instead of truth, Lear isolates himself from those who care. He dismantles his own security system, leaving himself entirely at the mercy of the 2 daughters who just lied to his face. Lear isn't the only father making this mistake. The Earl of Gloucester has 2 sons, Edgar, his legal heir, and Edmund, his illegitimate son. Edmund seeks his brother's inheritance. He plants a forged letter framing innocent Edgar for a plot to murder their father. Gloucester swallows the lie without investigating. He immediately places his trust in the deceitful Edmund and puts a bounty on the head of his loyal son, forcing Edgar to flee for his life. 2 aging men, both choose comfortable flattery over proven loyalty. Together, they trigger parallel disasters that will tear the kingdom apart. With absolute authority secured, Goneril and Regan drop the act. They systematically strip Lear of his 100 knights, dismiss his remaining authority, and eventually refuse to even give him a place to sleep. Lear realizes he traded his entire kingdom for hollow words, but his pride is too massive to admit the mistake to the daughters who are actively humiliating him. Rather than submit to their rules, Lear plunges out of the castle and into a brutal, raging storm on the open heath, a wild wasteland. Out in the freezing rain, screaming directly at the thunder, Lear's mind finally fractures. The violent weather perfectly mirrors his own psychological collapse. Stripped of his titles, his roof, and his sycophants, the former king is reduced to a frail, cold old man. The loss of his artificial power forces him to see the brutal reality of his own foolishness. Out in that same wasteland is Edgar. Hunted by his father's men, the true heir has disguised himself as a mad, half-naked beggar named Poor Tom to survive the elements. Back at the castle, Gloucester decides he cannot abandon his king and secretly sends aid to the wandering Lear. Edmund sees an opportunity to take his father's title immediately and reports Gloucester's treason to Lear's vicious daughters. The punishment is swift and horrific. Gloucester is tied to a chair by Lear's enemies, and in one of Shakespeare's most brutal scenes, Regan's husband gouges out both of the Earl's eyes. Thrown out the gates to wander the wilderness, blind and bleeding, Gloucester stumbles into a beggar. It is Edgar. The father is now entirely dependent on the exact son he unjustly banished. Meanwhile, word of Lear's abuse has reached France. Cordelia lands an army near the White Cliffs of Dover to rescue her broken father. Lear lost his mind, and Gloucester lost his eyes, yet only in the total darkness of losing everything they valued do both men finally recognize who truly loves them. The 2 storylines collide on the battlefield. Cordelia's French rescue force clashes with the British army, now commanded by the corrupt sisters and the traitorous Edmund. But virtue does not guarantee victory. The French forces are heavily routed. Edmund takes Lear and Cordelia prisoner. Seeking to eliminate any future rival claims to his new power, Edmund secretly orders his captain to hang Cordelia in her prison cell and make it look like a desperate suicide. The victors, however, immediately turn on each other. Both Goneril and Regan are infatuated with Edmund. Driven by paranoia and jealousy, Goneril poisons her sister to death. When her own treason is exposed shortly after, she takes her own life. In the resulting chaos, Edgar finally steps out of disguise. He challenges Edmund to a formal duel and fatally strikes down his treacherous brother. The villains have completely destroyed themselves through greed and infighting, but the collateral damage they've inflicted on the innocent is already in motion. Leading out on the ground, Edmund experiences a sudden surge of guilt. He gasps out a warning to the surviving nobles, desperately trying to revoke his secret order to execute Lear and Cordelia. The warning arrives minutes too late. The survivors watch in horror as Lear walks into the camp carrying Cordelia's murdered body in his arms. He managed to kill the hangman, but he couldn't save his daughter. Staring at her lifeless lips, desperate for a breath that will never come, Lear collapses and dies of a shattered heart. The stage is left littered with corpses. The few traumatized survivors, Albany, Edgar, and the loyal Kent, are left to pick up the pieces of a decimated nation. Lear's tragedy reveals the anatomy of a single, avoidable mistake. By prioritizing flattery over cold, hard truth, a leader guarantees his own ruin and destroys everyone he was supposed to protect.